Ever since I was a child, I've always been deeply introspective and aware of my place in the world ever since I could make sense of what was going on around me. This awareness was something that was naturally born inside me, and I still harbor it to this day. It would be distressing to not know, to not have a clear definition of my place, of who I was and where I'd be going. So I always stuck to what I knew about myself, created identities that I would hope to solidify me as a person, so I wouldn't be this amalgamation of something that moved in an undefined world. I needed certainty that everything would be as it always would, so I could feel safe and secure. But as much as that way of thinking, that way of being brought me comfort, it soon became the cage I would later learn how to break out of to escape what once felt warm and cozy but changed to a sinking pit of despair inside my chest. I taught myself to think that things could never change, that I would be stuck as who I had always been, and I would become hopeless and despondent as I noticed the world shift around me. As these things became more distressing for me, I knew that the only way out was to step out of the cage I locked myself in. One where the lock wasn't actually there. I just convinced myself that its presence was there just to keep myself inside, just to keep myself from exploring what other ways I could learn to live my life. All of my life, I've chosen to be nobody. I've always folded and folded one piece over the other to get as small as I could be, just so I could feel safe, out of harm's way. I would give myself so little, not even the space to exist, to live, and feeling uneasy, queasy, and uncomfortable by asserting that I had a self, and that self needed to be advocated for. I've been afraid of being too loud, too bold, too much. So I've stayed quiet, compliant, and so much less. I never gave myself enough space, time, care, kindness, love, understanding. Even as I spent these things on other people who I felt were more deserving than I, because I never felt like I deserved it. Who was I to think I could deserve those things? That I was deserving at all? So I gave myself less to work with. Disappearing without saying a thing had become my normal, as I let relationships with the ones I cared about fall between the cracks of my fingers, trying to abandon all the things I loved just to see how small I could go, and no longer feeling I could ever expand beyond the space I allowed. I purposely let everything go, let go of everything that mattered to me, to the point I had to let go of myself. There could be no space for me, because even that was too much space, and I felt, I believe, wholeheartedly I deserved even less than what little I had. I tried taking the ground beneath my feet, the one I stood on so I could fall away from everything, let go till there was nothing left. I wanted to take away the only thing I could ever have, the only thing left that I felt I didn't deserve. The only thing I truly have in this life, which could only ever truly be me. When the place you've built to be a home is no longer a house, but instead a cage, you quickly learn that you only have two options, to stay or to leave. So when my own misery became my roommate that took up too much space, the space I needed to live and feel comfortable, I knew I had to leave. I had to learn how to give myself the permission to realize that this life I kept up was no good for me, and that I could explore. I had to give myself the permission to explore, to learn that I, in fact, did have the power to open the door and leave behind all that I thought I knew about the world outside my cage. That I would be okay in the face of uncertainty, that there is no real true way for me to escape the clutches of life's ability to play the most random cards at any given moment, that my fear would not save me from the unknown, nor would my avoidance to life. To know that either way, I will find a way through, no matter the pain, the loss, with all the heaviness that comes with life. I could trust myself to be resourceful enough to do what it takes to get me through. I could trust myself to care for my wounds and pains, to know that there would be so much more than just hurt and the feeling of emptiness, that I should not go on resenting life for the things it has taken away from me, but try to find the ways to thank all that life has given me, and to thank myself for knowing this, for figuring this out, but for also knowing as much as life can give and take from me, I can give and take from life. From my own life and from other people's lives. To once again acknowledge my own strength in being alive and all the things I know I can do, but also realizing and accepting all the things I can't do all on my own. Some things are much bigger than I, and I alone cannot help them, but I'm not helpless to what goes on. I can help in being or creating a collective force to knock down or dissemble that which is bigger than I. That I am not alone in this world, and I will never be. The cage I was in did make me feel like I was alone, that I could not help the things that happened, that I should store anger and resentment for all I could not do, for all that I lost, for all the power I thought I lacked. But I was wrong. I allowed myself to be wrong, and I allowed myself to change my ways so that I can change for the better. To reclaim the life I so easily threw away when I closed myself in my cage. Now I'm learning to let myself move freely, to dig for understanding in the misunderstood. I'm learning to let myself be as I am, to accept who I am, but know that I'm not a fixed idea, but instead a living person, where I am always in motion, constantly shifting from one state to another. Physically, emotionally, mentally, unless I decide to hold on what is true. But even that is a loose grip for things that are ever evolving and changing, and nothing in life is ever static. I couldn't stand the face looking back at me. She was gorgeous. Her hair flowing down past her shoulders, a canvas for the art that were her regal eyes, lips, nose, and brow. It all came together, the perfect blend, the right notes contrasting each other. She was the art show, the center of everything. There was only really one piece showcased, and it was her. But suddenly her face no longer felt familiar. She felt like someone else. She became a stranger within a matter of seconds. Everything I had seen in her, everything I had made her to be, had been stolen and unable to be returned. She had been vandalized, created into something new. Someone new. I couldn't handle the weight of her eyes, staring deeply into me. I couldn't find safety in the softness of her face, nor the edges of her being. I felt lost staring at her. The person I had come to know so well had stumbled upon becoming someone new, to the point I could not recognize her beneath her recreated identity. I had to dig beneath the layers to find who I was looking for, despite her features being the same. I looked at her, and a stranger stared back, with a face I've always known but had since become unrecognizable. Then I catch a glimpse of familiarity, a fleeting and fragile thing, deep inside her eyes, calling out to be seen, calling out, "It's me!" I could see if I looked closely that the stranger had my eyes, my face, mirrored back at me, as it calls out, its voice hoarse and fading, "Remember me." Sometimes I find myself wanting to be everything to everyone, or at least my family. I feel like I'm disappointing them in some way by not being what they want when they want it. I feel that I took on a role in my family that I didn't deserve, that they could have gotten a better version of a daughter, sister, aunt, niece. In the ways I like to exist or don't really have a choice in how I choose to exist, I feel like I'm not fulfilling a role I was given. Maybe because there was the image of a perfect child, a perfect daughter, as I tried to fit myself to the image, tried to mold my body. I found that my body could not fit that image, that my mind, my demeanor could not fit inside the mold. No matter how hard I try, my body, my skin would undo the intricate way I twisted and folded them to fit. It was no use. I should be happy that those modifications never worked, never stayed, that I can exist as I am, but still, disappointment lingers like stale breath, stale air that hangs around me at all times. I should be proud that I can get to be me in the strange ways I'm known to be. But instead, I'm wishing I could be somebody else, when I know deep down I hate that someone I would become for others. We stand on opposite points, have a huge divide between us because we are nothing alike. They would stand for things I wouldn't, and I would stand for things they wouldn't. And for what it's worth, it wouldn't be for me. It would be for love, approval, appreciation, acceptance. But all of those things would feel empty if I paraded around as someone I'm not, someone I don't even like, since all I could feel is self-loathing at the life I had. I don't have the strength to try to be that person anymore, or even to begin with. Things shouldn't take more than what they can give, and I know no amount of love, approval, appreciation, acceptance could fill the shell of a person I would become, as it would always be overshadowed by the truth of who I was, the overbearing self-loathing weighing me down.